Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Now, I'd like to welcome to the show the former Derby County, Motherwell, Luton Town, Southport, Newport County and more importantly, Ireland U19 player Mark O'Brien. Mark, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Thanks for coming on, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Mark, I'm going to run into a load of questions and I have a load of questions for you. Can you just quickly tell me why you're on with me tonight?
Just to come on and talk about like the experiences I've had, and obviously as well as that, like with the ups and downs and the mental side of things, like just to kind of get a message out there to people to realise that it happens to everybody, that like if once you speak out about things, it helps so much.
Fair play, Marco. We'll go into that in a little while. So we're going to go right back to the start. You're from Ballyfermot.
Yeah, from Ballyfermot.
Playing football in Ballyfermot and in the Estates, yeah?
Yeah, playing on Lally Road like all them years, and then obviously getting a chance to get myself playing for Cherry Orchard, which is still local enough to me.
Yeah, I have a little Ballyfermot story for you. I'm from Kildare, and basically, you know, growing up, there was no real dubs down there then, and people would say, you know, if we're going up to Dublin. And now when I go back home, people say we're going into town because there's so many dubs down there. But there's a family moved down from Ballyfermot. I won't name them, but they moved in and there was 2 sons and 2 daughters. Everyone thought that the dad was in the guards because the guard car was outside all the time, but he wasn't.
That sums up Ballyfermot for you, all right?
Yeah, right. So Cherry Orchard, I played a bit myself and I was half decent. Few trials for Kildare under 16. You know, like at that stage, you know, the only players that would get anywhere, get to England or make it for me were, I think it was Joey's, Home Farm or Cherry Orchard. Now we had a mate of mine, like his cousin came down to play with us in a blitz, a 7-a-side tournament. He was an Ireland under 21 player from Galway United called Tony Folan. And we thought we were good. We were decent, but yeah, he was just a different level. I mean, were you always a different level ahead of the other kids? Were you always that good? Like,
I don't know really. Like it was when I started off. Like obviously I went up for Cherry Orchard at the age of like 5 or 6, and my dad wanted me just to train with them because they were the under-8s or under-9s, and obviously their manager wanted to sign me there and then, like for the under-8s and under-9s. But my dad obviously turned around to me and said, "They're too young. Wait a year or two." And I just wanted to go play. Like I never seen myself as someone that was like miles ahead of people. I was just kind of following in what my cousin Cliff Bourne, who flew away, and my brother, who was like 2 years older than me, he was with Cherry Orchard. So I was just following them what they were doing. And I never seen myself as something, because like I used to, like when I was younger, I was into everything. I could skateboard, I would like do here, there and everywhere. Like, and football was never like a main priority. But once I made it into Cherry Orchard and started to enjoy myself and enjoyed like playing games and stuff, I knew football was the only thing that I wanted to do. And like I say, when you start getting those accolades of years down the line, when like you make it to the Kennedy Cup team and you go win the Kennedy Cup, and then you get chosen for like the young Ireland squads at the age of 15, and then like you get to go away on all these different trials, like then you start realizing to yourself, well, it's what I've always wanted. And when you start getting them opportunities, you start believing in yourself that bit more.
You made your championship debut at 16. What was that like?
I loved every minute of it. It was kind of a mad season. Like I flew over to Derby when I was only 15, and then within that same season turned 16. So they were able to register me as one of the schoolboys there. So I'll never forget it. Like the manager changed over with Nigel Clough coming in, and by the end of that season, like I made a couple of reserve appearances, and the manager obviously took a fancy to me. And like I say, I was lucky enough that the opportunity fell to me, and the debut went really well. They were 3-0 down at half time. So I came on for 30 minutes and the game finished 3-1, cleared one off the line. And it was like there and then was the moment where I thought how lucky I am, but it gave me that kind of motivation to go, no, this is exactly what I've always wanted. Like, this is the career I want for myself. Like,
what was it like in the dressing room? Like, I mean, I'm going to ask you, obviously, what was Nigel Clough like? Like, you were just a kid from Ballyfermot in the dressing room at Derby County. What was that like? Was there any Irish there?
No, like it was really strange. Like there was Robbie Savage, there was Rob Hulse, Gary Teal, Stephen Boywater, Chris Commons, Barry Bannon, like all these kind of people that were around the first team. And like you never really associate yourself. Like I remember, like you watch Premier League years, and when I'm in Cherry Orchard and back in Dublin, like you come across Robbie Savage playing for Leicester in the Premiership, and then all of a sudden he's your club captain, and you're sitting in the same changing room, whereas you're doing the same warm up as them, and it was all like kind of a surreal like kind of moment. But like you say, like I had a week's training with them leading up to that game, and the week's training was just getting accustomed to first team football and getting like them obviously seeing me in a first team environment. And like I say, like when I was on the pitch, I would speak and shout and talk to everybody, but the minute I'd come off, I'd be back to the quiet lad from Ballyfermot, and I wouldn't say hello to anybody. And that's something that like obviously took a liking from the players, that they could see that I wasn't just so, even though I wouldn't speak off the field, when I was on the pitch, like they could hear me and know I was there and present and organising and being the player that I've always been throughout like my whole life before I flew away. So they were impressed by that. And like you say, it's something where it's just so surreal. But then when you get that chance of coming on for 30 minutes, like all of that goes out the window, and you don't like kind of pay attention to who you're playing with or playing against. You're just there to play a game of ball, win your headers, win your tackles, and just do what I've done from all the times at Cherry Orchard.
What was Nigel Clough like?
I like honestly, like I've said it loads of times now, and obviously it brings it more to light now since the retirement. If it wasn't for Nigel Clough, I probably wouldn't have had a career, because with some of the difficulties I've had along the way, and some of the setbacks or injuries or the health issues, any other manager or club might turn their nose up at you, might want to get rid of you after your contract runs out. But he was a person that stood by me through every last bit of it, gave me my debut, stuck by me through some of the difficulties I had. Even when I went home to Dublin after the first heart surgery, he was phoning me every week, making sure I was doing my long distance walk and make sure I was looking after myself. And even after this operation now, he's phoned me again to make sure that everything is all right. And if I ever need anything, he's there to help me. So like I said, he was a massive part of my development and a massive part in my career along the whole way.
Fair play to him. I mean, even still ringing it now, like, you know what I mean? That's fair play to him. Then you were hit with the news after a routine heart checkup. What goes through your mind then? And like when you got the news, were you with your parents, or did you ring your mom and dad straight away? Or
no, when I obviously when I got the news, because of the routine heart scan, I got told it would take 50 years for me to need open heart surgery or to need it getting fixed. So I got told football would be long gone. You'd be finished with like the rest of your career. Like everything would be okay in 50 years' time. You get it looked at again. So I thought, fair enough, that's fine. And then we went and got another scan. And then that scan came back and they said, all right, well, in 30 years' time, you'll need to get this done, blah, blah. And I was thinking, right, football will still be long gone by then. And then I got to another scan with a specialist. I went for an MRI. And then they said to me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really, really bad and 1 being hardly anything, the blood is like leaking back into your heart. And I'd say at around a 7 or an 8. So then that's when they start taking a bit more serious, where he goes, right, put this onto another consultant, see what they say. So then I went to see another consultant, and while all this is going on, like I'm phoning home to my dad all the time, telling me dad everything, and not really telling me ma, because she's obviously like the worrier, and I didn't want to panic her over anything. So then it got to see the specialist again, and he said to me, well, it would only take 10, 20 years, you'll need an operation, but for now, football will be fine and all of this. So I never really had any concern in my head thinking it was going to be as soon as it was. But then the specialist basically said to me, he turned around and he said, I'm going to pass this on to a surgeon in a hospital, see what he makes of it, and then he'll tell you what's going to have to happen. So my mum and dad flew over, and the first team physio, and we were sitting in this like little office in the hospital. And then the surgeon comes in, and he comes in with a model heart, and he just turned around and basically said to me, if you don't get this operation done soon, your heart is 3 times the size of what it should be. And if you don't get this operation done soon, you're looking to die this year. So I kind of like, in that moment, like I'll always remember it, but in that moment, it felt like he wasn't speaking to me. Like I was sitting there thinking, hang on, after making my debut the year before, and now all of a sudden it could all just be taken away from me. Like my only question to him was, will I still be able to play football? So this is me going in after getting told 20 years, 30 years, 50 years needing an operation. I remember he looked at his diary and flicked through and he goes, I can get it done in 2 weeks' time. So everything was like one big like whirlwind, and you don't take much on board. Like, you just literally sit there and ask the questions of, right, if I get this operation done, will I be able to still play? And then once I asked him that question, and he basically said to me, like, once you get this operation done, you'll have a slight chance of playing football, but don't be disheartened if you don't play ever again. You'll be able to get certain fitness back, but getting back to a professional standard, I don't think that'll be able to happen for you. We've had plenty of people come in for this operation, and he said, like, from an athletics point of view, he said, like, we've had a gymnast come in and she had this same operation that you're going to have, and her valve never took to her body and it failed within a year. So he said from a maximum of 5 years that you could have this valve, he said it could go within 6 months to a year, 2 years. So he said,
Jesus.
It's all about if the valve takes to your chest or takes to your heart. So me being 16, once I heard I was able to like still have a chance of playing, I never thought of anything else other than, right, let's get the operation done. So I never really understood how severe or how big the operation was. I was just fully focused on thinking, right, get this done. I want to get back playing, because I made the debut the season before. So I knew, like, that small glimmer of what I wanted, I just held on to that. And like, I had the pigskin valve put in the first time, and then obviously the second time would have been the mechanical valve, which is what I've got in now. And that means, like, obviously you can't play contact sport anymore. But I always just had it in my head that, like, the doctors have given me a small glimmer of hope that hopefully everything goes well and I can get back playing again. Like, I never had any doubts in my head, but obviously looking back at it now, like, I had everything against me to say I'll never play professionally again. And I look back at it now and say, well, when people see me having to retire at 28, I look back more in a positive way to say, well, they never gave me a chance of playing professionally at all, or they never gave me more than 5 years of having a valve, and I ended up having 10 to 11 years of it. So I can't really look back and feel bitter or regret anything. Like, I got the best of a bad situation.
Exactly. I mean, you showed some balls, man, there to carry on. I think 90%, 99% of people would have knocked it on the head. But I think what you said there about being 16 and making your debut, and that kind of, when you're that age, that's all you want to do, with your one track mind. And that drove you on, I think, basically to, look, this is what I'm going to do, and nothing's going to stop me. And even though they were saying to you, look, there's a slim chance, I think you kind of blocked all that out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, that's what I mean. It's like, it felt like it was, once they gave me that glimmer of hope, that was the only thing I could see and focus on, was looking at and saying, well, you know what? They said there's a chance of me being able to do it. I'm going to give it everything I can. And if it doesn't, well, then at least I gave it a chance. But I'd rather give it a chance than to sit around and take the mechanical valve at the age of 16 and never know if I would have been able to play or make a career for it or not. And I think I would have regretted it there and then, even though a lot of people probably would have said to me, like, I'm being really hard on myself. But because I made my debut that season before, and as you said, like, it felt like that it was just like my blinkers were on, and I just thought to myself, I'm going to give it everything I can. And I was lucky enough to have the people around me and to have Derby as a club. And like I've said before, Nigel Clough as a manager, who gave me a 3.5-year contract to give me that opportunity to get back fit again. And like I say, like, everyone who was involved with it and everything, like, it was all new to the physios. Like, they're only used to rehabbing knees, ankles and all that. They don't know what to do with a heart. Like, so it was new to everybody. So the best we could do was follow certain guidelines to what we got given. And like I say, I got back playing within 8 months, and I never looked back from that.
Brilliant. Fair play. You went to Motherwell and Luton in the next few seasons. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went to Motherwell. I had like a year left in my contract at Derby, and I went in to see Steve McLaren because Stuart McCall was on the phone to me to ask me to go out on loan.
Does Steve McLaren have the Dutch accent then?
He was just simmering out at the time, but he was close. he still had bits of it.
All right.
But like I say, I had Stuart McCall on the phone to me, and went in to see Steve McLaren, and I spoke with him and I said, like, what do you think? Like, do I have a chance of making it into your squad, or do I have to go out on loan to get me some fitness and stuff? And he just turned around to me and said, right, you've had six odd years at Derby now. And he said, you've had great years. He said, it started off really well, it dropped a bit. But he said, you've come to this kind of stalemate in the road. And he said, where we're moving on is that we're progressing things and we're bringing more experience in and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, I obviously was looking at it thinking I didn't come in for this conversation to think if I'm getting let go or not. I was just seeing if can I make it into your squad. But now looking back at it, I was glad for his honesty, because I can look back and say at least he was honest and he wasn't holding on to me for something that and make me believe that I had a chance of playing at Derby when he knew I didn't. So when I went to Motherwell, I loved every minute of it. Like you go from like it's a world, like it's crazy up there. You go from, it's like the 3 English league. It's like League 2, League 1 and the Championship all mixed into one league. And people like obviously say Scotland, you don't go up there, and because anything you see on Sky Sport is always Celtic play this team, Rangers play this team, and you always think that the standard isn't great. But you go up there and you've got your Aberdeens, you've got your Hearts, you've got Hibernian, you've got everybody, and you go up there and you think to yourself, like, I'm gonna give it a right go. And you go from one week we played Ross County away, and there's 1,100 there, and I think that was my second game on loan there. And then my third game was at Celtic Park. And then you go from 1,500 people there to 55,000 people.
Wow, wow. Were you a Celtic fan growing up?
I was a mad Celtic fan. Like I've always said, like, and my dad even said it to me. I remember I was on the phone to my dad when I was standing in the centre of the pitch. Like I remember they had like the European nights against Barcelona, and you see the place rocking, and you think, I'd love to go and watch a game there for the atmosphere. I'd love to go to like a derby and all these different things, because the atmosphere looks so good. And my first time ever in Celtic Park was playing that, which I found was crazy, because you had to kind of wipe out your head. So you're doing the warm up and you're hearing the Irish Rover playing and over all the speakers and all, and I'm singing along in the warm up and everything.
Deadly.
And it felt so good. And like you say, you go out there and there's 55,000 people there. We ended up going 1-0 up. We drew the game 1-1. And it was just like a great experience. Like, and they had Virgil van Dyke, the Scott Brown, Chris Commons, Lee Griffiths, all these people that are still there, Anthony Stokes. And like you say, you see all these players now, like the likes of Van Dijk, he's in Liverpool playing in the Prem and stuff like that now. And they're just all different experiences. And like, I loved everyone in Motherwell. Like the lads I got on so well with, and it didn't quite work out when the manager changed over, when Ian Barraclough came in. He had his own ideas, and that became a bit of a trend for me, where managers were changing over. So the managers that would bring me in all like enjoyed having me there, and then the other managers who took over from them were the managers that wanted to bring in their own ideas, and they didn't see me as their kind of sign, and I'm not their kind of player. So I had the same at Luton. Once I finished at Motherwell, I went to Luton, and John Still brought me in, and he brought in like 33, 34 lads, and it was a massive, massive squad. So like, you were kind of in the team one week, you were out of the team the next week, and you were just trying to like get a good run of games, whether that was in cup games or whether that was in the league. And again, like my Luton career never really got kick-started really. Nathan Jones came in, who's the manager now, and I was seen as a John Still player. I wasn't seen as a Nathan Jones player. So out of everybody, when he came into the squad, I was the only one that never had the opportunity to prove myself, to try and give me the opportunity to play and get in 90 minutes. And I always look back at it and say, like, I don't hold grudges or I don't hold anything against managers, but when I can have the experience of Steve McLaren telling me one thing of saying, right, it's not going to work out for you here, right, you can go, to Nathan Jones telling me to go out on loan for a month to Southport at the time and get games and get your match fitness, and then come back and then we'll give you a chance. Like, when he knew when he really knew that I wasn't going to get the opportunity, so then that's why I was able to like kind of put 2 and 2 together. And like you say, you just fall out of favour with a manager, and times like that you just kind of have to bite the bullet. And that's the side of football that a lot of people don't really notice, that it's like when Luton, and I was getting text week in, week out, off family and friends and everybody saying, you're not in the squad again, are you injured, and that's all anyone ever pinned over my head was injuries. And I had to just keep telling people, I'm not injured, the manager just doesn't want me. Yeah, so like, I'm training with, so when I was getting to the point of like, when you understand the manager really wants you out, I came back in for that pre-season, my squad number was taken away from me and everything like that. And the manager told me I was on the transfer list, and I was training with the under 18s and the under 16s at the time. I wasn't able to train with the first team. And like you say, it's all part and parcel of what people don't really realise how cutthroat it can be. But you just have to kind of keep your head down because, like you say, and the way that my dad's always said it to me, like, football is one big massive game of opinions. What's not right for one manager is right for another, and you got to just kind of keep your own sanity. And it's tough at times living away from home. But I think because I moved away from such a young age, you kind of adapt to it a lot better. And I had like my cousin Cliff on the phone to me, and he was speaking me through things, and he was talking to me and keeping me head in check and everything. So I have been lucky enough to have like certain people in football at the time, but then also it just makes you grow up. It makes you grow up as a person so much beyond your years once you move away, that everything kind of falls into place, and that's how it goes.
I was just going to say, you seem wise beyond your years. Before we move on to Newport, like you've just said there, you've been on the pitch at Celtic Park, against Virgil van Dyke, 55,000 people. You're in daily conversations with the likes of Nigel Clough and Steve McLaren. I mean, this is every Irish kid's dream. But then everyone has this perception and an idea that every footballer is a millionaire, billionaire. They're making 200 grand a week. There's monies, there's parties, there's sponsors, there's models. Like, what was it like for you?
To be honest, it's like that's the dream for everybody, because what you read in newspapers is Ronaldo's on 400 grand a week, Pogba is on 200,000 a week. But then these are all players that are playing in the Premier League. Like, the way that the one thing that I've always took away with me was when I first had a chance of signing for Derby, and when I was going on trials at 16 and 15, my cousin Cliff, who was already over and he was playing with Scunthorpe, captain of Scunthorpe, he said the easiest thing is for an Irish player is to get picked and get selected and sign a contract and go away. He said the hardest thing is now, he said, is staying there and making a career of it. He said that's the hardest part, because as an Irish player or whatever, you have to put up with not just not being selected and not getting picked for a certain team. You don't have the comfort of your friends and family around you. You don't have the comfort of, you know what, I've had a bad day in training, I'm going to go home to my ma or my dad or my mates and go out and whatever. You do have to grow up really quickly. And the thing of it is that if people aren't willing to put the work in and to put everything in, those 100,000, 200,000, like there's people that I've come across that I've had two jobs when I was at Southport. Like, they had two jobs and play on a Saturday. Like, there's other people around. Even when I first came to Newport, there was people that were having part-time jobs. There was people that were having to look over their shoulders and think, oh well, there's these like different things that are happening at clubs that you have to kind of get your head together. Like, there's young players coming through that could end up getting you pushed out. Like, there's so much to it that it's not just the glitz and the glam. Like, when I was at Southport, and just to keep myself going and to keep myself fit, I was staying in the loft of a B&B because it was the only place that could house
A
me.
loft.
And yeah, so like there was, like,
Jesus.
it was a B&B, like there was like 3 floors of it, but because the club obviously can't pay your expenses and pay for rooms and stuff like that, they had to get obviously the cheapest room. And Southport were brilliant to me for like the facilities that they actually had for the conference side. But like, I had to stay in a loft, and when I'm staying in the loft, there's like 2 single beds, there's a telly the size of an iPhone, and that's it. And a lot of people don't see these kind of things where you're thinking, oh well, do you know what, you're a footballer. Well, I'm thinking, well, do you know what? No, because the sacrifice that comes with it of, right, I did have to stay in a loft for stuff like that. You do have to miss out on your Christmases, your New Year's, your birthdays, your family parties, people's birthdays, your own birthday. Like, there's so many different holidays that people like obviously take for granted, where they think, oh, do you know what, I can't wait to be off work for Christmas. And that's why people who don't know, like, and I know a lot of people say, well, I'd work over Christmas if I was on 100,000 a week. But there's some lads that are like on, like, there's people back at home that I know that have been earning more than some of the lads I've ever played with, but then they still get their Christmases off. And the lads that I know that don't earn half as much as that still have to play over Christmas because it's what they do.
It's not all the glitz and the glamour that it's portrayed to be, Marco. Right, Newport next. What an end to your first season. That was fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, like that season in itself is probably more special to me than any other season, for the fact of, for the first 6 months of that season, I didn't play one single minute of one game due to obviously training with the under-18s at Luton. And the manager telling me I'm never going, like I wasn't there, and me never knowing where my next club was going to come from. And I was in like the maddest of relegation battles where you're 11 points behind with like 2 months or 16 or 12 games left in your season, and you have to like have a near on perfect end to the season. And I think just for pot luck, whatever the reason for it was, I just look at it and say, like, it could have fallen to anyone, but for the season and the stuff I've had through most of the career leading up to that moment, I felt as though, you know what, I've needed one of these moments to kickstart me again ever since my Derby start. Like, ever since I left Derby, it was kind of like on an up and down scale. I'd be in 1 minute, out the next, in 1 minute. And then that one moment in itself was like a kickstart to my career again.
Yeah, I mean, like you probably thought you deserved that moment as well. The highlights, obviously, at Newport, you know, the playoff final, the FA Cup upsets. Was it Leicester and Middlesbrough?
Yeah, like we've done it all really. Like we had Leicester, Middlesbrough, we beat Leeds. Like the list does go on, and like I even say, like to have the opportunity to play against one of the best teams in Europe at the time, when you play against Manchester City, and they've got Jesus, Sane, Mahrez, Phil Foden, John Stones,
Wow.
like the names. Like there was Fernandinho, David Silva was the captain, and I'll never forget like when we were going out, and we were like, me and the assistant manager have to stand there and wait for the captains to walk out so we go into the referees room. So I'm standing there with the assistant, and we're kind of like having a laugh back and forward to say, I wonder who's going to walk out as captain, whatever. So then the assistant manager walked out, and he goes, "Oh, I'll get him now." So the minute he walks back out, David Silva is by his side. So we're standing there thinking, "Oh, here we go. They've definitely gone for the strong team here." And then we seen that team, and literally, like on the bench, they had De Bryune, Raheem Sterling, Gundogan. They had everybody, every name down with them. And it was nice because they showed us that respect of, they have to play a strong team to know that, you know what, they didn't want any sort of upset. And we held them for 0-0 for 45 minutes, which was an achievement in itself. And like you say, the playoff final, to be able to captain a team all the way to a playoff final. And I know it didn't quite go the way that we all would have wanted it to go, but it was a proud moment for me to be a captain at Wembley for a club that, like, I've had so many memories with in such a short space of time. And like I say, it's a club that, other than Derby, I hold really close to me now.
Now you're 12 years younger than me. When I grew up, it was all about Ireland, and Ireland were really good. Top 7 teams in the world. The World Cup Italia 90, 94. If anyone even got near the jersey at any age, it was a massive thing. What was it like to pull on the green jersey underage? What was it like just to play for Ireland, to be picked for your country?
I loved every minute of it. Like from when you're at the age of 15 and you get picked for the development squads, and you go out for all the trials in the AUL complex and stuff like that. And like you say, you're coming together with like all these lads around Ireland, and you just love every minute of it. And then when I was under 16s, I was captain of the under 16s. I was captain of the under 17s. It was just one of them things, like putting a shirt on. Like, and I've said it to loads of people now. I think the only regret in football would be not getting the opportunity to play at a senior level, because it was something where, like, anybody who knows me knows I love watching Ireland through any sort of form that they're going through anything that they go through. I'll still stick an Ireland game on. I will still sit there and support them, and I love every minute of it. And like, because I came through an age group now where you've got the likes of Jeff Hendrick, John Egan, Shane Duffy,
Brady.
you've got Robbie Brady, Enda Stevens, Matt Doherty, like all these players now that are playing at a senior level. Like, I've played alongside all of these through all of their careers. I played with Jeff Hendrick at like Derby for so many years, and these are all lads that I get on really well with, that I always look at and I used as inspiration for myself. Even though my career never worked out as well as theirs has, I always looked at it and said, you know what, if they can do it, so can I. And I used that as my motivation to try and maybe get a chance. And I used to always think, well, you know what, being at Newport, there's probably going to be a slim chance of it. But when we do get these FA Cup games, or when we do get these telly games, if I do well enough, or if I have a good enough record where I'm keeping clean sheets and doing this. Maybe I might get a chance. And I was always living on that hope. And like you say, it wasn't quite meant to be. But any time that I had a chance of putting on the short for Ireland, I loved every minute of it.
Fair play to you. Then you were hit with the news that you were dreading, that you needed heart surgery. What was it like receiving that?
It was tough because, strange enough as it is, it was like obviously last March, when the first lockdown happened, I was doing rehab sessions for the knee injury that I had. So I ordered 4 new pairs of boots. I was doing my knee rehab. I was doing all the exercises I could possible. I was going out cycling every day. And then, so from March, April, May, I was like doing all my fitness work, getting ready for this season. And then obviously around near the end of May coming into June, I remember I got like a random kind of palpitation in my chest. And I didn't really quite know what it was because I wasn't able to lay on my left hand side, and I was finding myself going out of breath a bit more, and like I never really understood it. So I was phoning our club doctor, and I was telling him all these symptoms, and he kind of just said to me, "Oh, well, it might just be these certain things. Like just if it carries on, let me know." So I carried on for like another week or so. I was still going out cycling, so I hadn't got a clue what was actually wrong. And then like he said to me, "Right, I'm gonna put you in touch with a cardiologist. We'll get you an echo, and we'll see what the problem is." So I got the echo scan, and one part of me was always in the hope of saying, like, I hope nothing's wrong. I hope they don't find anything. But also the other half of me was saying, I hope they do find something to explain why I'm getting these feelings in my chest. Because if they don't find something, I don't know what's wrong with me. So then I'll never forget, like I was sitting there and went into the office with the cardiologist, and he turned around and said, "Your valve is leaking. Your valve is leaking again." And he said, and then that's when I burst into tears and I started crying, and I was just like, well, he goes, "How's that? Like how does that feel?" And I was just like, well, I said, it's something I've expected and wanted, like, and I knew it was going to come, but I was never fully prepared for it because I was always living on the dream. Like throughout my whole career, after every season, I would get a routine heart scan. So from year to year, I never knew how long my career was going to be. So I would play each year to the fullest, never knowing which one was going to be my last. But each year I seemed to be getting away with it, year after year after year. But now, then it was getting to the point where it was like 8, 9, 10 years down the line. I was thinking, I'm getting away with this too much now. Whereas I got told it was only going to be 5 years. So I looked at it, and like I say, I ended up crying, and I just said, like, I'm more upset at the fact of I know what I'm going to have to go through, as in the operation, the physical side, the mental side, everything. But I underestimated how much mentally it would affect me not being back in routine and not having football, because I always thought to myself I was always a mentally strong person. And that's one thing that I always had in my head. Like, I was always strong through everything I've come through in my career. I'm always mentally strong. And it was because so much has happened to me in such a short space of time, where I had to retire from like the sport I love. I had to like stop doing the job I love. So I have to start looking for a different way of life, or a different kind of job outlook. And also you have to go through a heart surgery where for the last 10 years, flying fit, of full fitness of everything that I've ever wanted, and feeling fit, looking well and feeling strong, all of that is wiped away within a 7-hour operation. So I knew all of that was coming. And now I can look back at it now, like 6 months down the line, and say, do you know what, like, I have come a long way. But at the time, having to retire from football was put to one side, and I was just trying to say, right, get this operation done, get myself back going. But the one thing I underestimated this time, because I can't really remember when I was 16, and being 16, I always said, like, I was lucky enough to be so naive that having to go through the operation in this day and age with the pandemic, like, I was in hospital for 4 weeks by myself, and I was only an iPad away from family and friends and everybody, but no one was allowed in the hospital. So anything the doctors were saying, they all had to keep relating back to me and telling me everything. So if I was 16, I wouldn't have understood a single word they said. But being 27, 28, you understand everything they're saying. So you understand the significance, you understand this might happen, you understand what could go wrong, you understand what can go right, you understand everything. So when you're trying to process everything, and then as well as that, only be able to FaceTime your ma, your dad, your girlfriend and everybody, it was so much to take in. And once I come out of hospital, all of that came into one big like volcano, where I was more nervous that I wasn't in hospital, to think something was going to go wrong. Then I start panicking, thinking, right, I've not got football anymore. Then you start panicking, thinking, I don't feel fit anymore. I have to, like, walking up 2 flights of stairs had me on my knees. like everything just felt as though it was falling apart right in front of me, and I couldn't do anything about it. But now that like I have been speaking with a counsellor and I have been doing things steadily, and I've been building myself back up with the Newport physio. I've been like speaking with the Newport doctor. I'm like understanding of all the tablets that I need to be on. Like I have like so much more of a grip on everything now that it all seems normal to me now to be like speaking about everything, rather than at the beginning. I think I was trying to still in my head live in a bubble like everything was okay, without trying to like actually come to terms with understanding, you know what, I'm probably being too hard on myself, thinking I was going to come cartwheeling out of this operation and everything was going to be fine again. Like this was like something in my own head that I knew that this was going to be the end of football, but it's the beginning of something new. And that's what I'm starting to learn now. It's the beginning of something where I can progress on and I can fulfill different things and not have to have hopefully an operation hang over my shoulders like I've had for the last 10 years. So I'm starting to see more of a brighter side to it than I have done over the last couple of months.
Mark, you seem to have unbelievable mental strength. Unbelievable, really. That's inspiring. Just over the course of your career, though, like in the back of your head, knowing that you must have been afraid to tell people or tell managers, you know, and it must have brought on some anxiety.
Yeah, and you know what? Like in the maddest way, football was my, like, what I've started to understand about myself now is that football was a bigger release to me than I ever understood. So football was my release of stress and anxiety, where before every game I would build myself up to think, right, I can't make a mistake, I can't do this, I have to play well, I have to do this, I'm a captain, I have to lead the team. And you have all of these different like rules in your own head that I used to build myself up so much. I used to like physically get sick before every game I played for the full 10 years of my career, because I was always like worked up so much. But then once I ended up being sick and go out and play a 90-minute game, the anxieties, everything gone, because that was my release. And one thing that I've realised now is that I understand now football had more of an effect on my life than just thinking it was the game I loved. It was a massive release for so much of built up anxiety that I was able to hide away due to football. And like you say, like speaking with managers, I never wanted anyone to know about any of the stuff that I've been through. As much as I wanted to talk to people about it, like I never really did, because I never wanted people to pity me or not give me a contract because of me past, or maybe give me a contract to give me like a bit of a pity party kind of thing. Like I was never that kind of person. That I just wanted to be judged on my football and be liked for my football and not for anything else. And the fact that I was able to do that, like I look at as an achievement for me. That like I had Stuart McCall, who took me in at Motherwell. I had him message me after he read my article straight after the operation, and his words to me were, he said, like, you've had an amazing career, you should be very proud of yourself. And I didn't know, he said, that you had to go year to year and find out if you were going to play the following year. He said that takes like real mental strength. But if that's a manager I played under and he hadn't got a clue about it, I knew I'd done something right, that he was only judging me off my football. And it gave me that little boost to think, you know what, I did set out to do what I wanted to do. But then also looking back now, I had over a 10-year a lot of built up anxiety that I never knew about. That's only all kind of coming to light now, that I'm only having to start dealing with now, which I'm glad I've got the people around me and I'm glad I've noticed it. But it's like me trying to like speak about it now and open up about it is something that like I never really knew I had until obviously I don't have the release of football anymore.
If you had a message to young players now, particularly say Irish players going over to England, or you know, even any young players, what would it be?
I'd say like the best way to do it is that like if you get the opportunity of going away, like the bigger picture, like there's a bigger picture to everything. Like you might miss your family and might miss your friends within that first year, but if you put your head down and you work hard and you really, really want football and you want that as your career and your passion, there's nothing that will stop you. Like you could have so many ups and so many downs, but if that's exactly what you want in life, there's not going to be a single thing that stops you. And dedication and sacrifice comes with all of that. And like I say, if I'm the person that people look at to go, well, you know what, he's had 2 open heart surgeries, he's had an ACL, he's had this and had that, and I was still able to make a 10-year career out of what I was dealt with, somebody else can make a 20-year career out of what they get dealt with. It's because if that's your passion and that's what you want, go for it, and don't just take one person's opinion as the be all and end all, because there's hundreds of managers that there's different opinions there.
It's clearly an inspirational story, Mark. I mean, there could be a movie made of this. There really could, like, you know. Honestly,
You know what, like
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got Netflix knocking on your door, seriously, because the story it's unbelievable.
Yeah, like I've had one or two people speak to me about like obviously write a book and stuff like that, and it's something that like I remember like my dad said it to me a few years ago. He said, "With the stuff you've been through, someone wouldn't go through in a lifetime." He said, "Write a book." He said, "Just do a book." He said, "It'll be like good to look back on." And I used to always look at it and think, nah, like a book wouldn't be for me. But then the more people, like as I said now, that I have the opportunity to speak out, to speak openly and talk about it, there's a lot more people that have said to me, do you know what? Like, it's a great story. But then the way that people always said to me, like over the last couple of months, I've had people say to me, like how good of a story it is, and they say you're so open and honest about it. And I said, but the only reason I'm so open and honest about it is because as you're seeing it as a story, I said, I'm just telling you the life I've lived. I said, I'm not trying to like spin anything around it. I'm just saying it as it is, like of what I've had to go through.
I read a lot of football books, a lot of autobiographies, normally on flights or on trains. A lot of them are, routine stuff. This is an unbelievable story, Marco. And audiobooks are the way to go these days. So if you ever write the audio book and you need someone to narrate it, I know a lad. I know a lad who would do it for you.
Perfect.
Yeah, in a way though, like you were lucky. I mean, without the proper diagnosis, you could have dropped dead on the pitch. So that's
Yeah,
something to be glad for.
yeah, like 100%, and that's why I always say that being in football, and like my ma always says, that being in football saved me life. Because if I was 16 still back in Dublin and playing with your mates along the park and whatever, if this was something that was always with me, well then I could have been played by Cherry Orchard at the age of 17 and then dropped dead in the pitch. Like I am lucky enough that the career that I've chosen, and I'm not saying that everybody would be as lucky, because even till this day, to still be in football and I can phone up the club doctor and say, hang on a second, we better listen to me chest on a Saturday to make sure everything's okay. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, but at the same time, there's a lot more different people where I look at it and say, yeah, I am lucky, and as well as that, I'm lucky to be able to have the job that I've had and love doing every single minute of it, and have the job to do and get paid for something that I love doing, and like get all the opportunities that I've had. But like I say, it wasn't something that was handed to me. That it wasn't something that was just given to me out of any sort of sympathy. I still had to work hard for it, and that's something that I'll always be proud of.
100%, Mark. You make your own luck, but you're a modest chap. You're mentally very strong, but you are an inspiration to anyone who's doing anything, not just in football. Don't give up. Keep doing what you believe in. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. I feel like writing the book myself, honest to God. So what's next? Would you go into coaching? Would you go into counselling? Are you keeping fit, or have you got a belly like Steve Bruce?
No, like I'm still like I'm getting back into the fitness side of things now. Like I've been doing a couple of jogs now for the last couple of weeks, like with the Newport physio. I'm back going into doing gym stuff. One of the centre backs off Newport, only for this weekend coming up now, has got called back to Swansea, so they already told me to get me boots ready to get myself back out there. In all fairness, from what's happening with me next, like I've just been kind of doing like a lot of different experiences. Like I've been doing for all the home games, like I've been throwing me hand at a bit of commentary for the club are looking to do like certain things media wise that they want me to try and look at and maybe get involved in. The analysis in the training ground, like when he clips games and watches back at games of formations and how teams play and who are coming up against and what players to look out for. Like I sit and watching how he does things and give my opinion on what I'm seeing, or maybe like certain clips that he might missed out on. And like I'm just getting involved with a lot more different things that, like, as a footballer, you never really take into consideration. Like when you're watching these presentations of who we're going to be playing against, who actually puts it together, what you actually have to do. And as well as that, like there's maybe like I've had one or two people ask me about would I enjoy doing some scouting, like going to grounds and watching games on certain players. And there's loads of different things that I say I would love doing. But I think just for now, while I'm kind of in that middle part of, right, I'm on the road to trying to get my fitness back and I'm on the road to going back to a gym. So I'm trying to like juggle so many different things to like understand what I'm going to enjoy. And I think the side of media and maybe on the outside of football, going and doing talks and opening up about things for a lot of people that are in sport that might suffer with injuries, that might suffer mentally. And like I say, there's a whole wide range of things that like I've experienced for myself that I know I could throw a hand at, that people could either relate to me, whether it's one person or not, that it's something I could try and do.
Definitely. I mean, it's an inspirational story. It needs to be told. You come across very well for a lad from Ballyfermot. You're very easy to understand. You clearly know the game. So I could definitely see a side in media, definitely for you. I mean, there's a lot of guys, you listen on the TV or listen to even some guys on off the ball or something else, and they don't have the flow you have. I mean, you've clearly got it. So if I were you, I'd stick to that. obviously the scouting side, but I really would go along the side of writing a book or doing a documentary, because this is an inspirational story. You know, you see stuff on Netflix about this, like American football or something like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a lad from home. This needs to be told. I think you're an inspiration. You really are. This is a Premier League podcast, Marco. I know you're a Man United fan, so you fancy United this year to win it?
Do you know what? After like a bit of a up and down start, as people called it, I think the way this whole season has gone in the pandemic, and I think this goes along for all 4 leagues, nobody seems to want to be an outright winner, because COVID is causing so much havoc in all kind of aspects of squads, teams they can pick, players that are out injured or COVID at the time. I do look at it and think that it's there for United if they want it. If they carry on and just keep that momentum going, I think it's there for United. And obviously, being a United fan, I think if they can keep that momentum up and keep certain players fit, well and healthy, I think they can go on and win it, yeah.
Yeah, they have been lucky with injuries. Liverpool are going through a blip. I think teams are figuring out how to defend against Liverpool now, but Man City are coming back. They have 2 games in hand to Liverpool. They're only 4 points behind, and those guys you mentioned in the dressing room, you know, the superstars that they have, they can just turn it on. I think it'll be a Manchester club that'll win it, but I wouldn't decide. I wouldn't know who just yet. Mark, regardless of what anyone says, I mean, you said your career was obviously cut short, but from a kid growing up from Ireland, you've, played for Ireland. You've wore the green jersey underage. You've played at Celtic Park under 55,000 people. You've been a captain at Wembley, and you've played under people like Nigel Clough and Steve McLaren. So you've had a fantastic career, and this is more than anyone would dream of in Ireland. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You've done all this under the condition that you've had. I got to say, I've met a lot of people from around the world, and you're definitely the most bravest, most courageous person I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, and you're an absolute credit to the people of Ireland. And thank you so much for coming on.
No, thanks very much. And like I said, it's something where if me speaking about my experiences helps someone along the way, where, like you say, if someone ends up getting an injury or someone feels homesick, like you say, it's something if you persevered in, and it's something that you want, the sky's the limit and you can do whatever you want. And that's something that obviously over the last couple of months now, like I've kind of struggled with mentally to try and picture my own future, but it's coming back now, and I can start to see more benefits from just staying focused and staying persevering with everything that I'm doing at the moment.
Well, I think you're an absolute legend, and I keep using the word inspiration, but it's an inspiring story. It really is, and it needs to be told. And thanks for coming out and sharing it. A lot of people would have just sat back and done nothing, but it's not easy to talk about those kind of things. And I think it's brilliant, and I hope you come back on the show, on the podcast, on the radio. We'd love to have you back anytime.
Yeah,
we have a Liverpool fan who's a journalist, a Southampton fan, and a West Ham fan, so it'd be good to have a Man United fan in there as well. Mark, thanks a million, buddy, and I'll chat to you soon, and we'll get talking soon about that book as well. Yeah,
perfect. No, but lovely.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.